So gambling-like content, really it means games that have features that mimic the mechanisms of what you would expect to see in real life gambling scenarios. There's two key elements that we need to understand. The first is the loot boxes, and then the second is simulated gambling. And they're not always obvious.
One of the big issues is the relationship between pay and play. So research has shown us that these simulated gambling products like the loot boxes, Steve, that you talked about, but also things like spin to win, battle passes, skin betting, they really do normalise and encourage monetary gambling in children and young people. Younger children tell us they hate being tricked. And older adolescents say the same thing, but with kind of much more nuance and insight. So an 18-year-old young man has told us, games create an emotional vortex of dopamine. You get sucked down, constantly chasing positive reinforcement, while in reality hating the experience moment to moment.
M ratings for chance-based in-game purchases, also known as loot boxes. The best way to think about these, if you're not sort of up to speed with them, is a bit like a lucky dip. So effectively, kids can be playing a normal-looking game, might be a sports game, and there'll be a mechanism in there where they can spend some money to unlock something that they don't know what it is at the point of purchase. Research has shown that it does lead to similar impacts to actual real-life gambling. So some of the harms that we can accidentally be exposing young people to include mimicking that real-life gambling behavior, triggering a similar sort of psychological response to real gambling, and also setting those patterns in place that can lead to more problematic gambling behavior later in life. So that's really why this classification changes have been made, because we've seen the kind of risks that we can unintentionally be exposing young people to. From late last year, so September 2024, all new video games that are released to market in Australia are classified, and we have specific consumer advice and ratings that capture the gambling-like content that is in these games. When you see the classification rating, and it'll be on the kind of the tile on your online purchasing store, you can look for that blue M and then the consumer advice of randomized chance-based in-game purchases. So that's your loot box kind of flagging the impact that might have on the players. And then for the simulated gambling, you'll always have an R18 rating, and it will say high impact simulated gambling. So that's there as your first kind of port of call. The minute you or your kids are looking at purchasing a new game, you can check that classification sticker and consumer advice to make sure you know what's inside the product.
It's really important to realise that this isn't just an issue of consumer protection or, giving parents the right tools. It's actually a human rights issue about ensuring that we strike that balance between empowering our kids to engage in digital culture and having the benefits of that, but also protecting them from exploitation and harm.
And what we're talking about is the prefrontal cortex in a child's brain. It's not fully formed until 25 to 28 years of age. And so what we have is this really vulnerable, emotional brain that feels things and experiences things quite differently.
15% of primary school children have told us, I can't stop using technology even if my neck aches, I have sore eyes and headaches. Over a third of primary students and 2/3 of secondary students have told us that they have spent far more time and money in gaming in order to keep feeling the same excitement.
So in a young child, what you'll see is no impulse control, like real struggles to just control those impulses. Might be the way they speak to others within games. It might be kind of the way they engage. And what you'll also see is obsession and constant begging. We're going to see meltdowns. And sometimes for parents, those meltdowns can feel so intense, so scary, so hard. We might just sort of allow that thing because we either don't feel like we've got the skills, or it's just too much to manage in the context of daily life, or it feels too intense. In older kids, and I'm going to be very honest and say I've experienced this firsthand, we can see sneaky behaviour. So we can set the rules and we can think we've got everything in place. And it's not that they're bad kids, it is that this stuff is really addictive. And so they're going to go around us. They're going to download things against our permission, or they're going to get things out of the locked box. They might overspend. They might choose gaming over real life.
These are the words of a 16-year-old young man who said this to me about 18 months ago. Participate and play, don't just police.
For 10 minutes, I played the game that he plays. And his reaction surprised me. He kind of was like, all right. And I joined in and we played this game for 10 minutes and he laughed at how bad I was at it. And he just laughed. That was it. But the incredible bit actually happened later that night at the sink. Number one, he appeared next to me with a tea towel in his hand without being asked, which never happens in a house of 4 boys. Number two, he then turned to me and he said, Mum, how was your day? And then the third thing that I found was that then, because I had some language and some understanding of this thing that he loves, I could even connect over with his maths homework using a bit of terminology from the game.
Turn off in-game purchases that require passwords, filter age-inappropriate games, and keep checking in, because games often add new features or terms sort of regularly, which can change the settings without you knowing anything about that. If you do want to give your children like real money, then use gift cards for limited spending in-game instead of linking it to a bank account.
What we want to do is a bit of an empathy sandwich, where we just sandwich that no in between a lot of understanding. And it might sound like this, and this sounded in my home. I really get how much you want this. It looks really fun, and you've heard your friend talking about it, and I can totally understand how much you want it. Or I could totally understand you want the same game your friend has. It sucks that I've said no, that kind of thing. It's really important when we do that empathy bit that we genuinely open our palms and show, I'm really listening. I really understand the wish or the want that matters to you so much. That's really vital, because kids will push and push and push until they feel seen and heard. So once we do that, the next bit's going to go a little bit better, but not perfectly. The next bit is, it's my job to keep you safe. This classification means that this isn't safe for you, or in our family, we're just not having this game, or I just don't think this one is for us. And so my answer's no.
The other thing to flag is the existence of classification.gov.au, which is the national classification database, not just for games, but for films, TV shows, everything that you kind of consume through those normal media channels. Has been classified and has the classification rating, the consumer advice, and on some products, a bit more of a detailed breakdown of all the kind of impactful elements that are inside that product. So you can check things like levels of violence, whether there's the gambling content, and that sort of stuff is broken down as well. And then the third kind of thing is the existence of a dedicated page on the classification website that has some fact sheets, case studies, and kind of hints and tips for parents to use when they're looking at the gambling-like content in video games. Basically, there's a whole range of resources on there. And the other thing I'd say, just from a kind of parenting point of view, video games, unlike social media, you can do them with your kids. Like, we're all super time poor, but they are kind of uniquely placed that if you really are unsure about what they're up to, there's nothing, depending on how accommodating your child is, there's nothing to stop you sitting next to them and interacting a little bit with the game yourselves and asking them questions around what they're doing and how the mechanics of the game works.
You can't manage something or mitigate risks if you're not aware of it. So the first thing is be aware that it is in there and that there are deceptive designs in many games.
While kids may not love limits in the moment, they will be so grateful for them long term. So just have that confidence to know that it's worth it. It's worth investing in those connected conversations and putting all the strategies and tools in place.
As a parent, you're not on your own in navigating this, because it's so easy to feel really overwhelmed, but there are lots of tools and resources out there, and there's lots of help available.